What's up guys, Kevin here from thesportsgeek.com, and in this video I'm going to go over my DraftKings 2016 Masters picks. I'm sure most of you know this, but for those of you who don't follow golf too closely, the Masters is played at the Augusta National Golf Club in Augusta, Georgia. It's a 7,435 yard par 72, and it's the most prestige golf tournament in the world, featuring the best players in the world. And we also get a ton of online and TV coverage for the entire week, which makes it a great event to follow. So throughout this video, I might talk a bit about ownership, why worry about ownership. It's definitely more important in the bigger contests. And what I mean by ownership is how many people in the contest own a certain golfer. So the Millionaire Maker has over 200,000 entries. So if a golfer is 25% owned and misses the cut, it eliminates 25% of the field. So if you don't have that golfer and he misses the cut, you're definitely getting a big advantage over those other people who only have 5 of 6 golfers remaining. If you pick the winner and he's 1% owned, you gain an edge on 99% of the field. So ownership isn't everything, but it's definitely important. If you're deciding between 2 golfers and you think one's going to be really highly owned and the other one you think is going to be lower owned, I would go with the lower owned golfer if you have them rated the same. All right, so first up, we got Rory McIlroy at 12,500. He's the most expensive golfer on DraftKings. I don't think his ownership will be too high, just given how expensive he is and how he hasn't been playing too lights out lately. So I think he's a good play. I'm guessing his ownership might be around maybe 18%, I'd guess. This is going to be his 8th appearance at the Masters. His best finish was a 4th place finish, and that was actually last year. He only has 2 top 10s and 7 tries, but he is trending upwards with a T8 and then a 4th place finish last year. He's 8th in birdie or better percentage and 9th in strokes gained tee to green. The putter is what's holding him back right now, but if he can get that putter going, I definitely think he's got a chance to win this year's Masters. So with the lower ownership, because of his high price and how he's not playing as good as some of the people below him, I think he would be a pretty solid play this year at the Masters. Next up, we got Jason Day at 11,600. He's the 4th highest priced golfer on DraftKings, and I definitely think he'll be the highest owned golfer. Probably at 30 to 40%, maybe even higher. He's coming off 2 straight wins, including the WGC Match Play Championship. He's probably in the best form on tour right now, and he has good course history at the Masters. He's played here 4 times, finished tied for 2nd in 2011, 3rd in 2013, and T28 and T20 the last 2 years. So in 4 tries, his worst finish is tied for 28th. He's 50th in strokes gained tee to green, 4th in strokes gained putting, and 7th in birdie or better percentage. So it's going to be tough to leave Jason Day out of your lineups, but if you do want someone to fade, if you're looking for someone with really high ownership to fade, he would be the guy, but I think it's going to be tough to fade him this week, just given his form and his course history. The 3rd golfer I like in this range is Ricky Fowler at 10,900. He's the 6th most expensive golfer on DraftKings. I think his ownership will be pretty high, just given his current form, and he's got some good course history at the Masters. He's 5 for 5 and made cuts, and the last 2 years he's had a tie for 12th and a tied for 5th, and he's never been outside of the top 38. And he definitely comes into the Masters in probably the best form he's been in entering this tournament. So this sets up for a good week for Ricky Fowler. Ownership will probably be pretty high on him. But he's definitely a solid play. He's 9th in birdie or better percentage, 9th in strokes gained putting, and 8th in strokes gained tee to green. So he's got everything going right now. Again, he'll be a popular play, but I think he's a solid play. There's guys right around him that will be popular too: Mickelson, Watson, Day, Dustin Johnson. So you got a lot of good golfers around him. So I think his ownership will be maybe 20% and definitely a solid play this week. And then we've got the lowest priced golfer in the 5-figure range, Dustin Johnson, coming in at 10,200. He's in good current form. He's 5 for 6 in made cuts at the Masters, including a tie for 6 last year. The thing with Dustin Johnson is he's known for choking in majors, but with his talent, a win should come soon. And I think because he's known for choking in major tournaments, his ownership should be down a bit this week. He's 2nd in birdie or better percentage, 13th in strokes gained tee to green, and he's not known for his putter, but he'll need it to get hot to win this week. I'd like him to put up a pretty big DraftKings score this week and possibly win the Masters. So I think Dustin Johnson at 10,200 is a solid play. So those were 4 of the 8 golfers in the 5-figure range. I could make a case for all 8 golfers, and I definitely probably will be including some of these other golfers. We've got Phil Mickelson, Bubba Watson, Adam Scott, and Jordan Spieth. They've all won the Masters before, and you can make a case for any of these golfers. So I think it just depends on your gut feel, who you feel is going to win the tournament or could win the tournament this week. Maybe take maybe 3, maybe 4 of those golfers and kind of rotate them in your lineup. I wouldn't suggest rotating like all 8 of them in your lineup. That's not really going to differentiate yourself. I think you just got to go with 3 or 4 of them, maybe even just 2 or 3 of them, depending on how many lineups you're putting in, and just kind of stick to what you're feeling. So you can make a case for all of them. These are the 4 I'm looking at right now, but I'm also looking at Phil Mickelson. I really love Jordan Spieth. He's my favorite golfer, so I think I kind of want to have a little bit of him just so I can cheer for him if he's in the lead. I'll probably be avoiding Bubba Watson just given that I think he'll be highly owned and I don't really like him. So that's more of a gut feel thing and a personal thing. But he's won here twice and he's a really, really, really good golfer. So I can make a case for him. Adam Scott, I love watching Adam Scott golf. His swing is amazing. So I could definitely see myself playing him. So right now I'm kind of up in the air. I think I'm just going to go with my gut feel closer to Thursday next week. All right, so next up is the 8K to the 10K range. We've got about 20 golfers in this range, so it's pretty tough to narrow it down. A lot of good golfers in that range, but I've got 4 that I'm looking at this week. Starting off with Charles Schwartzel, 9,400. He's got a green jacket from 2011. Since then, though, his best finish is a tie for 25th in 4 tries. So he hasn't been playing too well at the Masters after his win. But he did win on tour a few weeks ago at the Valspar. He's playing pretty good golf, tied for 48th in birdie or better percentage and 11th in strokes gained tee to green. So I think Charles Schwartzel might be lower owned, I guess, depending kind of on how he does this week at the Shell Houston Open. But I think he could be lower owned for this range of golfers, and I think he'd be a solid play, past winner, and definitely a solid golfer. Then we've got Brandt Snedeker at 8,500. He's had a wide range of results at the Masters over the years, including 2 missed cuts, one which was last year, but he's also had some really high finishes since 2008. He's had a tied for 3rd, tied for 15th, tied for 19th, tied for 6th. So he's been all over the place at the Masters, but he's shown that he can play well here with a tied for 3rd and tied for 6th. 21st in birdie or better percentage, 30th in strokes gained putting, and tied for 53rd in strokes gained tee to green. So his all-around game is pretty solid, and if he can bring that into this week and hit the ball well and putt well, I think his chances of putting up a lot of birdies, putting up a good DraftKings score, and possibly winning the Masters is pretty good. So at 8,500, I think he's a solid play in this range. Then at 8,200, we got Jimmy Walker. He's played at the Masters twice. He had a tie for 8th in his first appearance 2 years ago. He followed that up with a tie for 38th last year. He's 15th in birdie or better percentage, 36th in strokes gained putting, 18th in strokes gained tee to green. Just an all-around solid player. And at 8,200, I think he's got a pretty good price tag on him this week. So I'll be definitely taking some Jimmy Walker this week. Then maybe my favorite play in this range is Danny Willett at $8,000. This is going to be his Masters debut, but he is playing great golf right now. He won the Dubai Desert Classic in February and the European Masters in July. And although we don't have a ton of data on him because he's only played 8 measured rounds on the PGA Tour, he is tied for 5th in birdie or better percentage, 18th in strokes gained putting, and 7th in strokes gained tee to green. So one of the best players in the world right now, and we're getting a pretty good price at $8,000 on Danny Willett. So I like Danny Willett quite a bit this week. All right, so those are my 4 favorite golfers from that range right now. But again, there's lots of solid golfers and solid options in this range. Besides these 4, pretty much everyone up there, I definitely could make a case for playing. Brooks Koepka, Patrick Reed, Sergio Garcia, Brandon Grace, Louis Oosthuizen, Hideki Matsuyama, Henrik Stenson, and then at the very top there, Justin Rose at 9,900. He's pretty much a 5-figure guy, and he's right up there in talent with those guys, so he's definitely a solid play too. So all those players I can definitely make a case for. These 4 guys just kind of stuck out for me at their price. The next tier we're going to be looking at is the 7,000 to 8,000 range, starting off with Matt Kuchar at 7,800. He didn't have a great performance last year at the Masters, finishing tied for 46th. But before that, he went tied for 5th, tied for 8th, and tied for 3rd in the previous 3 years. And he's 8 for 9 and made cuts at the Masters. So definitely one of the best players at the Masters in this field overall, even though he hasn't won. He's got some great finishes. He's tied for 31st in birdie or better percentage, 41st in strokes gained putting, and tied for 45th in strokes gained tee to green. So all around solid game, and he definitely has played well at the Masters. And I think we're getting a really cheap price on Matt Kuchar at 7,800. Definitely one of my favorite plays overall for this week. At 7,700, we got Paul Casey. He's a veteran at the Masters, playing 9 times. He's only 6 for 9 and made cuts though, which kind of worries me. But when he does make the cut, he usually has a really solid performance. He had a tie for 6 last year, and his other 5 made cuts were T38, T20, T11, T10, and T6. So when he makes the cut, he performs well. The thing that worries me is he's missed the cut 33% of the time. But I think with his current form, I definitely think I'm going to be playing quite a bit of Paul Casey this week. He finished 7th at the WGC Cadillac and then tied for 9th at the Arnold Palmer. So I'm kind of hoping that flies under the radar, but he's a very solid golfer. Tied for 41st in birdie or better percentage, 62nd in strokes gained putting, and 21st in strokes gained tee to green. And then $100 cheaper, we got Zach Johnson at 7,600. He's already won himself a green jacket in 2007, shooting 1 over for the week, which is pretty strange to see a winner over par. But he won it in 2007, and then since then he had a bit of a brutal run from 2009 to 2014 with 3 missed cuts and a best finish of tied for 32nd. But then he did bounce back last year with the tied for 9th finish. So far this year on tour, his stats aren't anything great. Tied for 54th in birdie or better percentage, 45th in strokes gained putting, and 69th in strokes gained tee to green. But I'm pretty sure he has just started to find his game recently. Finished 5th at the Arnold Palmer, and then he looked good in the match play. So I feel like he had a rough start to the season, but he's starting to pick it up now. And going back to a course that he's really familiar with, I think he's got a good chance at a top finish this week. So I think he's a solid play at 7,600. And then the last golfer I've got in this range is Billy Horschel at 7,100. He missed his cut in his Masters debut, but he has won on a big stage before. He ranks 42nd in birdie or better percentage and 32nd in strokes gained tee to green. I think this is another guy who's just starting to find his game more recently. He had a tie for 20th at the Arnold Palmer, 41st at the Cadillac, and tied for 8th at the Honda Classic. Didn't do too well at the match play, going 1 and 2 and not making it out of his group. But overall, I think he's a pretty solid player, and we're getting a cheap price at 7,100 on Billy Horschel. So other than these 4 golfers, we've got some other intriguing players in this range as well. Guys like Ian Poulter at 7,200. He's starting to play a bit better. He's got good course history here. Then you got Jason Duffner, Bill Haas at 7,500. You got Justin Thomas at 7,600. So again, lots of good golfers in this range. Lots of good golfers in this complete field at DraftKings. So it's going to be tough to narrow it down, but the 4 guys on the screen are the guys I'm looking at more closely right now. So then lastly, we're going to be looking at golfers under 7K on DraftKings, and we've got about a third of the field under 7K, so there's tons of golfers to look at. Some guys that I'll probably be ruling out completely, but some guys I'll be throwing in 1 or 2 lineups just for fun. You never know with some of these guys like Fred Couples, but for the most part, these are the 4 guys I've been looking at right now. We got Keegan Bradley at 6,900. He had his best finish of his 4 tries last year with a T22, so he's played here 4 times. Last year was his best finish. He's been awful with the putter lately, but if he can turn that around, he might be a good sneaky play. His ball striking has seemed to be all right, ranking 19th in strokes gained tee to green. We're going to get a better idea of where his game is at this week at the Shell Houston Open. So if he has a decent to good week at the Shell Houston Open, I'll definitely be playing him at the Masters. Next up, we got Andy Sullivan at 6,600. This is going to be his Masters debut. Sullivan ranks 30th in the world right now. He recently won the Portugal Masters, and his latest 3 finishes on the PGA Tour have been T26, T17, and T27. So he's playing pretty good golf right now. He's 56th in strokes gained putting and 84th in strokes gained tee to green. So above average in both of those categories. Pretty solid player, and I think he's going to be a pretty good play at 6,600. Dropping down to 6,200, we got Daniel Berger. This is going to be his Masters debut as well. He has played well in some tough competition, finishing tied for 12th at the Tour Championship in September. His most recent finishes have been tied for 11th and tied for 28th, the Valspar and the Cadillac. And then at the match play, he had to withdraw because of a wrist injury. He was probably going to go 2-1 in the tournament and lose to Phil Mickelson in that final match, but overall pretty solid outing from him. Tied for 53rd in strokes gained tee to green, so all around solid player, hits the ball far, and I think he could do some damage here at the Masters, so I like his price at 6,200. And then lastly for this range, we got maybe the most popular player in this range, gonna be Smiley Kaufman at 6,000. Very cheap price for how well he's playing right now. His last 2 finishes have been a tie for 12th and a tie for 8th. One of the best young golfers on tour right now. It's going to be his Masters debut. He won the Shriners in October. He's 19th in birdie or better percentage, 97th in strokes gained putting, and 27th in strokes gained tee to green. So always a popular player on DraftKings. He will be popular, but at $6,000, I think you definitely need some lineups with him in there. Allows you to spend up in other places. So again, other than these 4 players I have on the screen, there are some other pretty solid options in this range. You got guys like Kevin Knott, 6,900, Ryan Moore, 6,800, Webb Simpson, 67, Chris Kirk, 67, Hunter Mahan, 6,600, young good golfer Bryson DeChambeau at 6,500, you got Cameron Smith, 6,300, Davis Love III, 6,100, Kurt Ekape Barnrat, 6,100, Old Man Fred Couples, 6,000, Vijay Singh, 5,700. So there's lots of different golfers that you could choose from this range. And picking one or two of these guys will allow you to spend up on the elite golfers. You just got to make sure that they get through the cut. So that's the big thing, is getting these guys through the cut at that price. As long as they get through the cut, then you're usually pretty safe. You definitely do want some birdies, especially if you're going after a top prize. You want some guys who are going to put up lots of birdies and finish high. But if you can get through the cut, that's the first step with the golfers in this range. So that's it for my picks for the Masters. If you guys want more Masters picks for DraftKings, check out golfbanker.com and check out Fantasy Labs at thesportsgeek.com/fantasylabs. You can get both of those links in the YouTube description below. Go ahead and check them out. They'll give you some more picks for the Masters. If you guys enjoyed this video, let me know by clicking the thumbs up button on YouTube so I know to keep making videos like this. And if you don't have access to my free lineup generator tool, make sure you click on the lineup tool link in the YouTube description below. That will give you my lineup generator for free and also email updates with more DraftKings picks. So as always, guys, good luck with your contest. Hope one of you guys take down that $1 million first prize. Cheers.